right. Are we? All right, there we go. Sorry, guys. Tricky business we got here. But what is up, guys? Welcome to a brand new episode of the Jesse Hughes Show. I'm so glad you guys are here. We have got a lot to discuss tonight, but of course, as always, ceremonial pop of the chair wine. Oh, it's smoking. We love our chair wine, folks, don't we? So we've got a lot to discuss tonight, including some primary results that happened last night. There were primary elections across the country, including two very important ones that we are going to discuss here together. The first, and thus the title of this episode, has to do with primary elections in Indiana. Now, if you guys don't remember, a few months ago, Indiana was in the middle of deciding whether or not they were going to redistrict. They were deciding whether or not they were going to join the trend of Republican states redistricting to try and help with the midterms. Ultimately, there were 6 state senators that held up the redistricting effort and caused it to fail. Those 6 senators, President Trump promised he would primary them. And Turning Point USA also jumped in and said that they would help with primary efforts as well. Well, primary candidates announced, and last night, 5 of those 6 state senators that were against this redistricting effort lost their primaries. It was a very important race, and one that goes to show President Trump is still king of this party. President Trump still calls the shots. President Trump still has a hold over the Republican Party and has control over what happens. Not only that, but it also goes to show that Turning Point USA, Turning Point Action specifically, is still one of, if not the most effective organizations on the right. And we will get into all of that. There was also another primary election that happened last night in Ohio, and we're going to get into those details as well. But before we get into any of that stuff, I just want to remind you guys, if you are watching on YouTube, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Make sure you like the video. Make sure you share this with all your friends. If you're watching on X, make sure you follow. Make sure you share. Make sure you repost. Make sure you do all the stuff. And go check us out on Spotify, on YouTube, or not YouTube. Go check us out on Spotify, on Apple, on wherever podcasts are found. We have the audio version of this show coming up on those platforms after this show is over. I got to do a little editing. But make sure you go follow us on all those platforms. Make sure you support the show. We love you guys. Well, I love you guys. I'm the only person doing this. I'm sitting in my dorm room, or not even dorm, my apartment bedroom right now, doing this by myself. I love you guys, and I appreciate you so much. Anyway, so back to the conversation. Trump still runs the Republican Party, and that is made clear by these primary results. In Indiana, state Senate. You have a state Senate election. Typically, primaries and state elections go a little unnoticed. It's not something that we see a lot of action in. But Trump did something unique by nationalizing this issue. He did something unique by making this an issue that the average person would actually care about, something that most of his supporters would actually care about. And if it was just Trump by himself talking about this, it would have made some headway, but he had some help from Turning Point USA, from Turning Point Action. the action arm of Turning Point USA. They have one of the most, if not the most effective door knocking operations in the country. I know because I was part of it here in Virginia. Now, ultimately, here in Virginia, we didn't get the goal that we wanted necessarily, which was the defeat of the gerrymandering referendum. However, we went out and we knocked thousands of doors across the Commonwealth. Tons of students from several different areas in the state went out and knocked thousands of doors. And this is something they do in almost every state. They have operations in nearly every state, especially states where there are key elections. And this redistricting fight in Indiana, these 6 senators, state senators that chose not to support the president, this was a key fight. This was something that signaled where they were in the party. This was the old establishment versus new MAGA. And MAGA won. 5 out of those 6 senators lost their primary election. And it wouldn't have been possible without President Trump getting involved and without Turning Point USA getting involved. And this leads me to a point that I've been making on X for a while, but I believe that the majority of the vitriol and the hatred and the jealousy that you see directed at Turning Point USA is because of how successful they are. Part of it is groups of people that are envious. Part of it is groups of people that don't want them to be successful because they don't like the direction they're taking the Republican Party, which is to the right. You listen to Turning Point contributors, you listen to the Charlie Kirk show, hosted now by Andrew Colvett and Blake Neff. You listen to any of these people, they're advocating for right-wing positions like immigration moratoriums, very important. They're advocating against the old conception of an American is just anybody who shows up here at any point, and actually saying it means something to be an American. They're advocating for right-wing positions. And it all started under Charlie. Charlie, over the last couple of years, really started to shift on some very important key issues. He shifted to the right. And the reason that Charlie was as effective as he was, part of it was because he was able to communicate these right-wing ideas that we always are debating on X, that we're always having conversations about on X. He was able to communicate that to a normie in a way that would not scare the normie and would actually draw them in. An important lesson that we need to learn if we are going to continue this movement into the future. We have a ton of different ideas and issues that we care about. We have different policies that we want to see implemented. We're not going to get those things in place if we're not able to win elections. And we're not going to be able to win elections if we are unable to communicate them to normies in a optically appealing way. Optics still matter in politics. We have an example of that coming up in just a moment, but optics still matter in politics. These things are still important, and we need to realize that. And so what you see with a lot of this BS thrown at Turning Point USA is it's coming from a place of envy from some people and complete and utter freaking out, chimping out, pruning out, if you will, from others because they don't like the direction that Turning Point's leading the party. They wish it was less MAGA. They wish it was more of the old school ways. How do I know this? Because if you go back and look at Charlie Kirk tweets, old Charlie Kirk tweets on X, go look at old posts on X, especially last summer. What did you see? Some of the very same people who are now claiming that they are defending Charlie's legacy, some of the very same people who are now saying that they are trying to carry Charlie's legacy forward, some of the very same people who are saying that they think that Erica Kirk is acting suspicious and that Turning Point's acting suspicious and that they're moving away from the vision of Charlie Kirk. Some of those very same people, when Charlie Kirk was alive, were calling him a fake Christian. They were calling him a Zionist shill. They were calling him a cuck for Israel. They hated Charlie Kirk until he died. And then, as soon as he died, as soon as he was murdered, they tried to claim the mantle. Never mind those of us who liked Charlie, like me. I listened to him almost every day. Never mind us. We didn't know what we were talking about. It's these people that hated Charlie when he was alive and now all of a sudden want to grift off his death that know what's best, that know what he wanted. It's them, not us. Those of us who liked Charlie, who listened to him frequently, we don't know what we're talking about. But those people who hated his guts when he was alive, they know what's best. But unfortunately for them, Turning Point is still wildly successful, despite what the conspiracy theorist will say, despite what the retard right will say. Charlie Kirk's legacy still lives on in Turning Point USA. And just to show how stupid some of these people are, I posted a photo a few days ago. I posted a photo of a hat that I purchased that says one simple thing: Make America Charlie Kirk. And the message of the hat is simple. Charlie Kirk was a great man. He was a patriot. He was someone who you actually could look up to and model your life after. That's the message meant to be conveyed. And instead, you had elements of the retarded internet coming out and saying, oh, so you want America to be shot in the neck, huh? Don't you? Oh, so you want us all to be killed. How stupid are you people? I genuinely think some of these people were doing it on purpose. They knew that they were obfuscating the issue. They knew that they were being stupid on purpose. But some of these people actually believe this. Some of these people are actually that stupid. It's embarrassing. It's beautiful to see. It's kind of hilarious, but it's embarrassing for these people. And these are the kind of people also, speaking of important primary elections last night, these are the kind of people also that when they saw that Vivek Ramaswamy was weak, when they saw that Vivek Ramaswamy had made some very serious blunders that could potentially cost him the governor's race in Ohio, when they decided, oh, we need to put somebody up to challenge Vivek, who did they turn to? Was it Frank LaRose, somebody who's won statewide in Ohio and could do it again? No. Was it someone who's established that has a solid conservative America First record? No. It was Casey Pushed. I think that's how you say his last name. I'm not sure. Casey Pushed. And who was this man? Someone who's never been involved in politics before. Okay, that's fine. I don't mind that. Someone who did not start out as a very good public speaker. Okay, he can improve. Someone who went to X and called President Trump a pedophile. In a state that Trump flipped from the Obama coalition and appealed to the working class voters of Ohio, he called Trump a pedophile on Twitter. And we wonder how Vivek Ramaswamy won his primary by 70 points last night. We wonder, how did a guy who advocated for H-1B visas to replace American citizens, how did a guy that says America is just an idea and not a nation that has its own unique heritage and culture, how did that guy who insulted Americans and called us stupid on Christmas, how did he win his primary? Oh, because we put up someone way worse. You mean to tell me that the guy that called President Trump a pedophile lost a state that Trump carried by a heavy margin? You mean to tell me that? What a surprise. Who could have seen that coming? We have to be serious, guys. We have to be serious. I don't even, this, like, how stupid are you? Like, people, what are we doing? We had a golden opportunity to actually push back against a bad candidate. And instead, we put up a worse candidate. Are we being for real? Are we being for real right now? We can't be serious. What are we doing? These people, I can't even with these. I hate that I just used that term. I hate that I just said that. This is what you guys have pushed me to. And the thing is, Casey Bush was actually up at one point. And instead, we have this idiot going out and calling Trump a pedophile. As someone has pointed out in the comments, refused to communicate with his own donors, supposedly had massive staff turnover, supposedly was abusing his staff and doing all sorts of, and we wonder how this stuff happens. We wonder how Vivek wins his primary. What are we doing? These people who claim to be, I'm not MAGA, I'm American first. I'm America first. I'm not, MAGA's dead. These people are not serious. They can't put up a serious candidate. The closest they have is James Fishback, who does have some really good ideas for the state of Florida. The problem is he can't keep his own foot out of his mouth. They put up guys like this character in Ohio who spurgs out on Twitter and decides to call the man who carried Ohio by several points in the last election a pedophile. Are we being serious right now? What is happening? What are we doing? We wonder how in some states the establishment is able to hang on and cling to power. We wonder how these things are possible when we do stuff like this. And I'm not saying we, because I'm not part of this. I knew this was going to happen. I saw this coming from a mile away. But this whole, we're not MAGA, we're America first crowd. They do stupid stuff like this and then expect that somehow we're going to get this based right-wing dictator one day. Oh, the day is coming. The people are going to wake up. We just have to punish the Republican Party and burn it down. And this is we have to get behind Nick Fuentes, who just yesterday, a video came out of Fuentes calling himself a moderate Democrat, referring to himself as a moderate Democrat. Nick Fuentes, I'm a non-woke moderate Democrat. This is not America first, guys. This is not right wing. This is stupidity. This is retardation of the highest order. You're not being serious. You're not a serious people. You're not a serious movement. You're getting behind a guy like Nick Fuentes, whose entire career has been defined by saying outlandish things to get attention. That's his entire career. That's the kind of guy you worship. If you're a young guy like me, I'm 24 years old. If you're a young guy like me, you have probably seen how popular Fuentes is in our generation. And if you are anything like me, you probably realize this is not the direction we need to go, because this is unserious. We have a lot of problems. We have a lot of issues in this country. We have a lot of issues with the Republican Party. No one hates the Republican Party more than I do. I can promise you that. But how do you actually affect change in the party? It's not by nominating Casey Bush. It's not by following guys like Nick Fuentes. It's not by burning the GOP down and electing Democrats to the House of Representatives. It's not by doing any of those things. It's by getting involved, going out and doing the hard work that no one else wants to do. I moderated a city council Republican candidate forum tonight. Before I got on this podcast, I was somewhere in the city of Lynchburg moderating this candidate forum. Not because I wanted to necessarily. I mean, I did want to. It was a cool opportunity. I'm glad I got it. But it's not because it was my dream growing up to become the moderator of a city council candidate forum. It was because these are the kinds of things that you have to do that no one else is willing to do to get your name out there, to get involved, to start exposing yourself to people so that you can build credibility. And when you build credibility, you start getting trusted with better and better opportunities, which allows you to start spreading a better message than what we have now. That's how you change the party. That's how you push for a new direction. It's what Charlie Kirk did. He built Turning Point USA. He got it involved in the MAGA movement, which has become the mainstream movement of the Republican Party. And he worked his way to being able to call the President of the United States his friend. You don't do it from the outside by trying to push some craziness like electing Democrats over Republicans to burn the GOP down and teach it a lesson. You do it by getting involved. And if you're not willing to do that, maybe you're not cut out for this. I like that you pay attention. I like that you get out and vote if you vote for the right people. But if you're not voting in your primary elections, if you're not getting involved in your local party, what are you doing? What are you doing? You're never going to change the Republican Party by sitting on the outside and complaining and doing nothing. And you're not going to start some third party. The highest vote share a third party got was when Teddy Roosevelt ran for a third term because he didn't like what Taft was doing. That's the highest it's ever gotten. Not even Ross Perot did better. And you think you're going to start some new movement when you're not even willing to go out and knock on somebody's door and talk to them face to face? You're not willing to go to local party meetings and meet people and get your face out there and your name out there? You think that you're going to actually affect some kind of change? You have to do hard work. You can't just be lazy and expect it to all work out. You actually have to do hard work. You're never going to get anything done by just sitting on the couch and complaining on Twitter. I am on Twitter all of the time. I am on X all of the time. I am very active on that app, except today when I had an exam and law school exams started this week. Wasn't as active today, but most of the time I'm pretty active. But I also go out and actually do things in real life. And I'm not saying this to toot my own horn or to brag. I'm saying this because people need an example to show them how it's done. And how it's done is not doing what Fuentes does by sitting behind a camera and complaining and saying all this crazy stuff. It's by actually going out and making a difference and being smart. You can argue, oh, Casey Push went out and tried to make a difference and it didn't work. Yeah, because he acted like a moron. You actually have to be smart, by the way. You actually have to operate in an intelligent manner. Not by going out and just like pushing all sorts of random crap, but by actually being intelligent. So the primaries last night showed one thing. Trump is still king. Trump still controls things. And if you try to go against him, it's not going to work out pretty well for you. Better watch out, Thomas Massey. All right, we're going to move on here. Just a quick word, as always. We are sponsored by our great friends over at deusvoltlapelpens.com. If you want some based lapel pins to put on your jacket, I'm unfortunately not wearing one right now. My mistake. I'm going to go tune out now. No, I'm not. If you want some based lapel pins to put on your jackets, to put on your backpacks, to put wherever you put your lapel pins, go to deusvoltlapelpens.com and use my code ChristFamilyNation26 for 10% off. You will not regret it. All right, we're going to talk about Cuba. So, in the aftermath of kind of what's been going on in Iran, we've heard Trump discuss and mention that Cuba might be next, that we might be having some fun in Cuba soon. And I've seen some people who are well-meaning say, why don't we focus on America? And we need to focus on domestic issues. I agree. Gas, locally right now, it's a little bit ridiculous. We need to get those prices down. But unlike what we did in Iran, I am actually a full advocate for going into Cuba and doing something like we did in Venezuela. Why? Because two reasons. One, I'm a firm believer in the Monroe Doctrine. And two, I actually think a little bit of imperialism is a good thing. First point, the Monroe Doctrine is the idea that America is the sovereign power, is the preeminent hegemonic power in the Western Hemisphere. This is an idea that I fully agree with. And I think that we shouldn't waste as much time engaging in endeavors on the other side of the globe unless they directly threaten us. But when it comes to the Western Hemisphere, we control this area. This is our backyard. Cuba is 90 miles off the coast of Florida. That's right next to us. Venezuela has been the source of a ton of drugs coming into the country. South America in general has been the source of many problems, when in reality, South America should be the area that we are the hegemonic power over. We should have hegemony in the Western Hemisphere. We should be projecting our strength in the Western Hemisphere. And so that's reason number one why I think a insertion into Cuba would be justified. Reason number two is a little imperialism never really hurt anybody. America is in many ways an empire, and we've always acted like it, even from the beginning. We like to pretend that we're not. We like to say that we're not. Oh, we're a republic. We are. We have a Republican form of government. But we're still an imperial power. We still have empire tendencies. And that's not a bad thing. You need that in a strong power. America's a strong power. They need to be a little imperial. We need to be a little imperial. And so when it comes to Cuba, when it comes to South America broadly, when it comes to North America, we have hegemony over these areas, and we need to act like it. Somebody just commented, Cuba needs to be decommunized, if only to correct the outrage that was allowed to happen. I fully agree. One, because it's in our backyard, and we don't want a communist power in our backyard working with our enemies. And two, because this is our sphere of influence. We should be the ones calling the shots. And I heard recently a conservative commentator, a prominent one, saying that nobody really puts forward any new ideas anymore. That's fair. That is true. So I'm going to present a new idea for you guys. One that I think is a good idea that we should be exploring in terms of foreign policy. When it comes to our relationship with the Western Hemisphere, with North and South America, we need to drastically alter how we deal with these other countries. A lot of times when it comes to foreign affairs and foreign policy, we like to give a lot of aid to countries. We like to say, here's some free money. Here's some free money. Do with it what you will. We need to be changing how we do that. And the best way to do that is to start leasing, in a way, our services and essentially make these vassal states of the United States. I don't want these countries becoming states. I don't want Cuba to be a state. I don't want Puerto Rico to be a state. I don't want these countries to be states. Colonies, maybe. I wouldn't be opposed to that. Maybe some colonialism wouldn't be a bad idea. But I don't want them to be states. But they could be vassal states. Now, what do I mean by that? We propose a deal with North and South American countries. If you agree to recognize us as the hegemonic power within the Western Hemisphere, if you agree to recognize us that way, and if you agree to pay us a little bit of money for our services every year, a small fee, we'll provide you military protection, we'll provide you special trading rights, and we will ensure that foreign influence from other parts of the globe does not enter your country. You can't deal with China. You can't deal with Iran. You can't deal with these hostile foreign powers. Even the Europeans, you can't deal with them. But you can deal with us. And we'll give you better trade deals. We'll give you military protection. We'll clean up the cartels for you. We don't want to deal with the cartels as much as you don't. But you have to recognize we are the power of this hemisphere. And we expect a small fee for our services. Who knows? Could be a good arrangement. Could be a very good arrangement that is fruitful to us in the long run. It's an idea worth exploring. It's a new idea, needs some fleshing out. Could be worth exploring in the long run. All right, we're going to move on. We've got one more thing to discuss tonight, and then I can open it up to some discussion if you guys have any topics you want me to talk about beyond this. But a new report came out from the DOJ recently highlighting that the Biden administration was displaying a very high level of anti-Christian bias across many agencies. And this is something that we knew at the time, but it's being confirmed by the DOJ. It's being reported that prominent Biden administration officials referred to Christians as cultists, referred to Christians, normal everyday Christians, as cultists, and engaged in a series of behaviors that were anti-Christian, including throwing pro-life protesters in jail on bogus FACE Act violations, displaying bias against Christians and grant funding and all sorts of things within that sphere, and also by going after Christian institutions and Christian universities like Grand Canyon and Liberty University. We all remember, especially if you're within the Liberty orbit, a couple years ago, where Liberty received a $14 million fine for alleged Clery Act violations in reporting sexual assaults. Were there some problems that happened at Liberty? Yes, I'm perfectly willing to recognize those. However, it was clear to me at the time, and it is clear to me now, and I just want to say I am vindicated on this, it's clear to me now that the Biden administration went after Liberty as hard as they did, not because these violations were so egregious, but because they hated Liberty. They hate what Liberty stood for. They hate what Liberty's values are. And they wanted to punish the university for actually being a Christian university, for sticking to its values, and for being conservative. That's why you saw a $14 million fine. Higher, by the way, than the fine levied against Penn State for the whole Jerry Sandusky scandal. It's the highest fine ever levied against a university for a Clery Act violation in history. People got mad at me for pointing out at the time that the Biden administration and the Department of Education were going after liberty because they hated what liberty stood for. They got mad at me. People within liberty's orbit got mad at me. Well, it turns out I was right. The Biden administration levied the $14 million fine, not because what Liberty did was so egregious. It was bad. I will grant you that it was bad. But they levied that fine not because what we did was so bad, was so egregious, but because they hated this university. They hated that it stood for authentic Christianity, and they wanted to punish us for actually being Christian. That is what this DOJ report has revealed. And it serves as a warning of what is to come if we allow Democrats to gain power again. They'll make this look like kindergarten. They'll make this look like child's play. The left hates authentic Christianity. Somebody commented that word for word. They hate authentic Christianity. It's true. They hate what Christianity stands for. They hate the gospel of Jesus Christ. And you can look throughout world history. When communist revolutions happen, the first thing they go after is the church. We cannot allow the left to take any sort of power ever again in this country, or else they will have every authentic church closed down. They will have every authentic Christian institution punished for their beliefs, and they will wreak havoc over the religion of Jesus Christ in this nation. I understand there's some people who theologically think that that's necessary to happen in order for Christ to come back. I disagree. I agree that we will experience persecution because of our faith. It's something that we're never going to escape. But that doesn't mean that we willingly roll over and let people just trample all over us. We cannot let that happen. The United States was founded as a Christian nation. I firmly believe that. We can't let our heritage as Christians be thrown to the wayside. We have to prevent it from happening, and we have to be willing to fight back. The Biden administration's anti-Christian bias was just a taste of what's to come if we allow Democrats to win back the House, win back the Senate, and win back the presidency. We can't let it happen. Be vigilant. Get involved. Do not let these things happen. Somebody said the Democrats want to persecute us out of existence. It is true. Remember when you vote. Remember Charlie Kirk. Remember what they did to him, the left. Remember the Biden administration, what they did to Christians. And remember countries like South Africa and Rhodesia and what happened when the left took power in those nations. We cannot allow that to happen here. We have to build a future for future generations that is worth living. Remember who you are, American. And don't let anyone ever take that from you. All right, we're going to call it here unless anybody has anything else they want me to discuss or talk about. I'm going to give the chat a couple minutes. If you guys have anything you want me to discuss or talk about, I've talked about everything that I had planned. So we're going to give it just a second. But thank you guys so much for tuning in. As always, I appreciate all of you. I appreciate you guys sharing the show, joining the show, coming in, discussing things with me. I appreciate all the feedback that I always get from you guys. We're trying to build this into something special. I want it to be something special, and I appreciate you guys so much. I never thought, even a year ago, that I'd be having a sponsor like Dave's Volt Lapel Pens. I never thought I'd have a sponsor at all. And yet, here we are. Here we are, continuing to build, continuing to grow. It's all because of you guys. I couldn't do any of this without you. So it looks like we don't have any other requests for me to speak about anything else. So we're going to call it a night here. Thank you guys once again so much. I love you guys so much. God loves you, so do I. God bless you guys as you walk into this week. Thank you, and always be patriots. Thank you guys so much. God bless, and have a great night.